Hey, good morning, folks. We're going to continue working on artwork here for the Spelljammer Combat and Exploration supplement that we've been building for the past 190 some odd episodes. Let me check my signal here to see where we're at. I'll go through my intro spiel and then we'll get to work. So I'll go through my intro. Yeah, that seems like it's coming through loud and clear this morning. Good morning, good morning. And let me go ahead and I need to press buttons here. Where am I at? I'm trying to set up my intro and my signal shout out across the discords here. So just give me a moment while I track down Spelljammer. There it is. Let's see. Live streaming live streaming Spelljammer book art today. Today is pilots and ships. There. Okay, cool. So, okay, thanks. Intro spiel. Hey, my name is Phil Kearney. I create role-playing game supplements. I publish them. Interesting. Yeah, I publish role-playing game supplements online. I'm doing this all on. Hey, okay, great. So we know I'm Phil. we know I publish role-playing game supplements. I've been focusing my attention on Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition for the past few years. There are links in the description down below to a slew of work that I've already produced that are examples of other work that I've completed, similar to how we're building this supplement right now. It's a role-playing game supplement for D&D for Spelljammer. We type out the text, we send it off to an editor, they send it back to us, we do the page layout so it sits on the page right, and then all the gaps amongst the text on the page is where we put illustrations, and then we paint them. So like, subscribe, hit the bell icon to get more information about this stuff in the future. I've just posted that I'm live on Twitter, so if you want to get notification when I'm live, you can follow me at Phil Kearney. Otherwise, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. It's the best way to help support the channel for me to continue to grow so I can do this full time and be with you guys more than just 100 minutes in the morning. So we've got a timer going here, so that'll pop off. I've got, let's see, this book cover we created around episode 15. I'm a little tired, so forgive me for being so discombobulated. We're currently working on the equipment and chapter section. This is focusing specifically on the Necklace of Fresh Air, which is while you wear this necklace, you benefit from the effects of the air bubble spell as described in the SAIS perpetually. So when you cast that spell, basically it creates a fresh air bubble that always stays fresh. It never goes bad. It's great for being dumped into space so it doesn't die forever. Enough with my yammery words. Let's attempt to get some more work done here. So this is Zadalia, who's a perfect person to have an air necklace on. She's royalty. She'd be able to afford it. It'd be important that she has it. She has it. There you go. If you pick her up, there's major spoilers here to the Light of Zarax's adventure. So I'll give you guys a couple seconds here to realize whether this is something you want to listen to or not. And I sure do love that you're here. Light of Zaraxis, right? So you can pick up the princess in the pirate fight if you defeat the pirates of the Last Breath. You'll find her stuck in the brig while the vampirates attempt to figure out whether they should turn her into a vampire or sell her off for ransom. Still trying to figure that out, so she's just sitting in there rotting. If you attack the Last Breath, it's already been damaged from combat, so all you gotta really do is like maybe deal 40 some odd damage to the side of the ship, and you could blow a hole in the brig where she's kept, and then she could float out of the ship, and you could scoop her up and run away with her if you wanted to end it at that, or you could use that as a means of boarding the ship. As they attempt to keep their hostage secure, you can use that as an opportunity to overwhelm the crew. Though vampires are nothing to sneeze at, that's for sure. But yeah, if she gets blown out the side of the ship after a good attack, Then she'll bob her way out of the gravity field into free flow wild space where she would need air. She would run out quickly. It shouldn't be difficult for the team to be able to catch her and get her aboard so she doesn't suffocate. But by equipping her with the necklace, it makes it narrative. It gives her the plot armor she needs to not just be killed out of logic. Since they're so meticulous in detailing how long air can last with creatures in the explorations or in the hazards section, where we look at air, the state of different air on your ship, it'd be horrible to not have something to reinforce those mechanics because it's inconvenient. So we want to design the adventure. So the last 20 pages, this is a 108-page document. The first 88 pages or so are mechanics for space physics, like how ships move, how well you can notice or interact with objects in space, a whole bunch of combat options, chasing, orbiting, escaping orbit, flying through atmosphere, how fleets work, how you can command multiple ships without completely destroying the momentum at your table during an adventure, so that fleets become something fun instead of something to resent at your table. Ton of really, really fun opportunities when you have fleets of ships. Fighter craft, dog fighting. It's a lot of physics stuff, and like retranslating the combat and adventuring chapters of the player's handbook in DMG to operate with these vehicles and the scale of adventure. You have to. You can't just. I find, and maybe once you read the document, and you'll agree, that there's a lot of what ifs that get created when you introduce something like space to a fantasy game, and you need to cover a lot of rules so that DMs have enough background knowledge, just dependable, referenceable content for when your random situation arrives, that there are that there's stuff that we provide answers to just basic questions, so that you can make a ruling, like how quickly does a planet go around the sun? How quickly does a moon orbit a planet? At what point do we stop having spherical gravity and start having linear planar gravity? All that sort of stuff. And you can always make those decisions on the fly as a DM. That's the glory of being a DM. But if you have a solid chunk of rules to be able to follow with that stuff, what am I trying to say? New DMs might not be confident just to be able to make that stuff up on the fly. And what's worse is when you're making up rules on the fly and you're not consistent in how they're applied to the campaign that your characters are in. You want to make sure that you're working, that you're helping build suspension of disbelief, so that they're willing to continue going along on the ride instead of feeling like, instead of you having to just make it up, like if you can build a solid set of base rules that you can fall back on and that the team can rely on, they can start building tactics around how those physics work in the world, so that you help self-reinforcing them having agency in the campaign. Well, we want to do this. Well, you can't do that. Why can't I do that? Bad reasons. You want to help empower characters so that they can continue to sally forth and mess stuff up and break things like characters do. That's what they're there for. I'm rambling. Don't mind me. I've got my rambles. So once we are happy with the line art for this illustration, we'll drop in the colors. We have the Zedalia painting over here as a reference for us to use for our colors once we get to that point. I would like to be done with this. I'd like to be done with the line art this evening. Hey, Hornetico, I'll be working on Eberron character art this evening as well. We'll be coloring the plot hook NPCs that we had started last week. That feels pretty good. How you doing, Hornetico? I'm having a plane crash of a morning. Just cannot put words together at all today, my dude. Saturday, so what's my schedule? Monday through Friday in the mornings like this, we do Spelljammer art like we're doing right now. On Mondays and Thursday nights, we do Eberron cartography and map token development like NPCs and monsters and objects like campfires and tents, all sorts of stuff. And then, hey, okay, so doing all right, trying to change up my art style a bit, right on, because the faces always feel samey to me. There you go. Excellent endeavor, my man. It's really diving into ethnicity, looking at how different colors tend to go with different features, like how noses work, how eyes work, how cheeks, chins, lips. Noticing the difference between men and women, getting a lot of that anatomy locked down so that you can control how to put ethnicity allows you to control what sort of, you can build variety into the characters that you have to get rid of that sameness. But at the same time, if you, when you really get into ethnicity and different skin tones, then you can use that. You don't have to worry about, you don't have to care what, if they're white, black, Asian, Hispanic, whatever. It doesn't matter anymore. You can actually use the color of their skin to complement what's going on in the larger piece around you. Like, if a darker colored skinned person here would work better with the aesthetics of the lighting in the piece, then you have the confidence to be able to properly illustrate that person instead of having the same, Anglo-Saxon features, but with a rainbow of different colors that their skin could be. That's a way to do it, but a better way to do it is to notice difference in type of skin, in different nose structure, bones, eyes, especially hair. If you can get yourself to where you can match up those different physique with the colors and be able to accurately depict those things, then that opens up a really wide array of being able to introduce and include diversity into your illustration. But you can use that diversity, and like I said, to help reinforce the color palette that you're attempting to achieve on the piece that you have. So they become they just help strengthen your composition, because you don't have to worry about, I need white skin here, because all I can do is illustrate white people. You can increase the fact that you can increase the diversity of how you're expressing images on your page and how you can build your composition, because you're not limiting yourself to the palette of one particular type of person. Not that I'm saying that I've seen that demonstrated with you at all in the work that you do, Hornetico, because you do good work. This is just this is something I noticed for myself. As I kept building more compositions and I found myself in more and more scenarios, different lighting and coloring conditions, it's boy, I really wish I had like a mid-tone color I could go here. And so I don't know. Let's explore Mediterranean. Like let's explore Polynesian. I think that color palette would work in this composition. So now you find yourself, well, what can I make this? What can I make this feel more Polynesian in ethnic expression? And then you can start really celebrating the diversity that people have instead of just waving a banner that says that you're different. You can demonstrate the differences in people. And that's when you can start spinning on things. Like maybe you want your Drow to have more Asian or Hispanic features, despite what their like their midnight black skin and white hair. You can control what kind of features that they have. Like elves are always so stereotypically like this. Has like this elven, this like this English sort of assumption almost, but like what if that were to be India instead, or Pakistani? Anyway, that's what I thought. That's what got me down the path of exploring ethnicity, and now it's fun. Now it's just a matter of because I don't care when I'm just doing random characters. I don't care what their ethnicity is. So it's just whatever's going to make the composition stronger, and that's fun. It's like, oh, it looks like I'm going to be exploring maybe something that feel like Tibetan might feel right in this piece. Cool. Let's get into Tibet, and then I can express that stuff. It's fun being able to gain control of the actual differences in people in the real world. Really just opens up a large it's just more tools in your kit for you to be able to have interesting compositions. And honestly, people appreciate if you can operate in various ethnicities so that you can express the kind of, you can help fulfill the expression that they want for their character, for instance. I started learning, I didn't actually learn that when I was doing a lot of character art commissions, but there's rarely any real mention of ethnicity when I was doing character sketches. It was either like a furry animal type of character, or just generic white. It was actually pretty uninspiring. It wasn't until I started doing my own work, my own books, my own illustrations that I started to notice how much I wanted that kind of variety in my art. I think it was when I was doing Cypher System third-party artwork that I really started to pay attention to ethnicity in depicting my characters. Anyway, I'm rambling and probably canceling myself in the process. Don't mind me. Good enough. I really don't want to break my soul over this, but certainly investing myself in it. Here. This will be the third time illustrating this character, and I think I've gotten to the point where I'm happy with the garments. I'm pretty happy with the hand positioning. I still need to resolve the necklace. That's the point of the piece. We'll get to that. Va ba 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 bum. What are we talking about? Oh yeah. So Monday through Friday, I do Spelljammer art like this, and then on Monday and Thursday night, like tonight, we do Eberron Adventure cartography and token production. On Saturday, we do commissions and personal projects. And then typically on Tuesdays, but this week it's going to be Wednesday, that I developed the Martial Powers project. Which is a magic system for martial characters, barbarians, fighters, monks, rogues, as well as rangers, paladins, and a smattering of attention to artificers and warlocks, to have a mana resource spell pool system that can be spent on combat, exploration, and social challenge boosts and benefits, so that you are having a wide array of options of what kind of martial character you like, how you want your resources to express, how you resolve threats and problems to your team, like a rogue that leans into skill boosting, can go any direction in exploration, as well as have skill checks backing them during social encounters. So we'll be developing that on Wednesday this week instead of Tuesday. My lunchtime adventure team, the lunchtime, it's called Lunchtime Adventures, is my 18th level campaign right now that I host for some of my coworkers during our lunch. And so this week, we typically have a 90-minute session on Wednesdays. But our calendar is scuttled this week, so we need to have game on Tuesday, so that eats my Martial Powers lunch. So I'll be on Powers on Wednesday, when I would normally be DMing for my 18th, soon to be 19th level team. They figured out how to activate the sigil that they found that allows them to. It's a time travel campaign, right? So it's like Groundhog's Day. Whenever they die, or when the day ends, they wake up back at the beginning of the first day and relive the day over and over again as one of the key frames of the adventure challenge, where you can only get so much done in a day. And as you gain levels, you can get more stuff done. But even that 19th level, there's more things to do in a day than they know how to resolve. And they're not sure what things they have to actually resolve during the course of the day to save the world and end their Groundhog's Day time loop. But during the course of the campaign, they've discovered this ritual. It takes 40 minutes to perform the ritual, but at the end of it, they create a new bonfire, basically, where when they save, they wake up at the bonfire instead of the bar. So they can move themselves around the world day by day, wherever, however far they can get in a 24-hour, they only have actually 18 hours because they technically have 23 hours because at the 18th hour, they start to accumulate exhaustion as a countdown to place a timer on how much they can get done during the course of the day. And then at the 6th degree of exhaustion, which hits at the 24th hour after they wake up in the morning, when the day loops around, they hit the 6th level of exhaustion, so they automatically die, and then that's when they reset. So that's just a hard rule that we have inside of the game, like to make the game work, for them to have rules to follow that sets the parameters of how they're building challenges. The exhaustion mechanics are fantastic. So a lot of times, by the time, even just the first degree of exhaustion of penalizing physical skill checks, a lot of times they're just like, yeah, we're good. We're just going to go to sleep, whatever. Like, only rarely do they actually want to get down to, like, the 22nd hour where they're now taking, like, disadvantage on saving throws and they're at half movement and their physical skill checks are all at disadvantage. They're like, this isn't worth it. It's very rarely do they need to push so hard that they can't just take it easy and reset the day. Sometimes they'll just put a bullet in their own skull. It's amazing to me, though, how rarely they actually want to do it. Like, every time they auto reset, like self reset they call it in the very PC term. Anytime they self reset, it's almost like they feel guilty that they've like they're not making the most of the day. Like, they really try to just get stuff done and figure out what's relevant and what isn't. It's just they would rather just fill their time with like just narrating BS and building camaraderie between their characters in game, because at the end of the night it's like, well, we may as well settle in and we'll see each other in the morning then. You have the bar menu memorized, obviously. So when they wake up, they know what they want to order. They're all hungover as hell from the night before. But yeah, they found these anchor points that allow them to navigate around the world, so they can get further distances than they would normally be able to get within a 24-hour period of time on their own. And then they discovered that there are significantly more powerful types of they call them anchor points. They can create a much more powerful anchor point. Let me correct myself. They can't create them, but they've found significant anchor points that if they bond to those anchors, it doesn't keep them where they're at now when they wake up, but it resets them to when the anchor point was created. And they found an anchor point that was created 5,000 years ago, which is when they believe the machinations of what set off the time loop in the first place. They know it's somewhere in the past that created the loop. Now they've found their first anchor point that actually lets them loop in the past. So now that they're bound to a time anchor, whenever they die, they wake up 5,000 years in the past, and they're in the middle of a fight. As soon as they wake up, they're being attacked by one of the big bads that they thought they had gotten rid of, but they realized that they had just killed it off in the timeline that they were at. But it was actually bound, the anchor that they found, the time anchor, this massive like it's like a CR20 bug. Basically, it's just a massive kaiju type bug that was anchored and trapped inside of this rune prison, and part of the rune prison's composition was this time anchor. So like, aha! So they knew they had to get rid of the bug to get to the time anchor. They couldn't. The bug was so big they couldn't even see all the sigil. They were just able to recognize that this is a more powerful anchor point than what they have. So they had to get rid of the bug to be able to see clearly what the sigil is. So they ended up disintegrating after a fight. They were able to whittle the bug down and they disintegrated it. And now that it was out of the way, they could clearly see the sigil. They realized what it was. They could decipher with Arcana when it anchored. And they're like, great, we can, because they were running into dead ends in this current timeline. They couldn't find the solutions to the, like they could discover what the problems are, but the timeline they were in, they couldn't actually create any answers because the timing was all off. It's like, we got to get someplace where we're ahead of everything and like at the beginning of stuff so that we could change and reset stuff. So then when they found the timing, they're like, this may be a possibility for us to go back in and start making changes before today plays out. So they're excited about having anchored that. But the anchor that they have, the time anchor, was part of the rune prison that kept the bug trap. So when they reset their day, it's to when the rune when the anchor was completed, which was around before these gatekeeper faction of druids that protect the world from being destroyed were imprisoning this bug so it wouldn't destroy the world. And they can't just kill it, because if they do, it resets back to its home world. So they put it inside of a time prison that would basically lock it to be trapped inside of that prison forever, as long as the rune isn't destroyed. And the rune is also inside the prison, and the bug just can't damage it. So it was a self-enclosed. It was self-reinforcing. It wouldn't be able to be broken unless you could somehow get past the wards on the prison and then get rid of the bug. And the team had spent the past 6 episodes of our adventure learning how to unravel all the defenses on the prison and then how to kill the bug. So like they know the bug is trapped there, and they know that the bug being trapped there prevented them from being able to go back in time. They just don't know yet why the bug is trapped there at all. So, and they don't watch this stream, so there's no real spoilers going on there. But yeah, so they've gone back in time, and when they show up, the gatekeepers are literally trying to drag this kaiju into the room prison, and now the characters just like magically show up in the prison where the bug is supposed to be. and the first thing that the team does is they jump all the people in charge with knives. And they're like, we want an explanation or else we'll kill you. It's like, oh my god, that's so hostile. But of course they immediately get killed because the bug uses the distraction as an opportunity to retaliate, and the team is in the wake of this acid spray that it just uses as a breath weapon. Even though they're 18th level characters right now, the breath weapon does 120 damage. And it's more than, even with evasion, it's more than what their rogue can survive. So they have like basically one round to figure out what they need to do to keep themselves from being killed by the druids that are there and all their forces, or to get themselves from getting killed by the acid spray. They had to do about 7 resets during the encounter to find safe spaces where they could stand and not get slaughtered by the bug, and not immediately be targeted by the druids. So when we last ended our session, they were about to enter the second round of combat. It's kind of a kill house puzzle where the creatures and the combat that's happening inside of the challenge has preset beats, and if they don't hit their beat correctly, kind of like if you ever played Space Ace or Dragon's Lair. It was a cartoon-styled animated video game in the 80s where you had a joystick and you had to time the direction of the joystick to coincide. It's kind of like Dance Dance Nation, like a very early version of it. That if you kept hitting the beats correctly, it would keep moving the animation of the story forward. So you are technically passively watching the video game play a half-hour cartoon for you. but you could only move forward in the cartoon if you continue to hit the right beats at the right time in the Dance Dance Nation game. And so the way it plays out is that every time you screw up it's like if you ever played Simon, where it's like left, right, up, down, up, down, left, right. And you had to keep sequencing to stay in time with that as you're moving your joystick. And every time you screwed up in Dragon's Lair or Space Ace, your character would get killed in some sort of amusing or frustrating way. And so these kill house scenarios are basically the same thing. That the way that they're constructed is that the characters only have one or two moves that they can make at a time, and if they don't, someone gets killed. And the way that the game is built is that if one character gets killed, everyone resets together, because it's no fun to watch other people try to do something that they would have been able to succeed if you had only been there, but now you're stuck in the sidelines. That's lame. That's horrible character adventure design. So in this scenario, we were able to lean into that camaraderie, and that if anyone dies, everyone is dead. And like the ranger has 140 hit points, but that doesn't really matter when the rogue only has 60. You know, like the druid's at 110. The paladin had 150, but we don't have a paladin anymore. So it's just a 3-man team now. But we're about to hit level. As soon as they can figure out how to get through this challenge alive and to move on to the next to the next encounter, they'll gain 19th level, because it's a goalpost adventure campaign, or a milestone campaign, and the next milestone is successfully traveling back in time and surviving the day is their next goal. And this bug challenge is preventing that from happening. But if they can figure it out, if they can figure out how to get through this scenario, a perfect score would be the bug gets captured anyway, and the team helped the druids capture the bug. So now the druids are going to be giving a friendly disposition to the characters, so that when they have a conversation with them, they can glean more information from them without having to deal with hostility. And they can then lend themselves to the druids to help achieve whatever their goals are, so that the characters can gain favor and then lean into that. So typical D&D. I mean, it's at that point it's just typical D&D. It's just the time travel aspect of them being able to try it over and over again when they die means that you can do these kill house like save or die scenarios, and the fun of it is realizing where the risks are and how to resolve it. It's frustrating for them sometimes if they get stuck inside of it and they can't figure it out. But as soon as they figure out a move, it's like, oh, we can survive another round by doing this. They get excited because they keep moving the ball forward. They know that all they have to do is survive long enough for the thing to resolve, that they can clear the obstacle and then progress the storyline. And there's always big gains for them on the other side of a kill house scenario. So a lot of times they'll fight bosses just because they don't know what's down the other side of the boss, or what kind of items the boss might have that they can make use of during their day. And they all have the Eldritch Knight feature, where they can use a bonus action to summon something that they've bonded to them. The bonding lasts across the day. So I could, over the course of today, bond myself and attune to, like, say, a dagger. Our rogue has a magic dagger that automatically crits demons, and they've been fucking around with demons a lot in the past six levels. So they love having that dagger, but it takes up one of his bond spots. So he only has at this level, it's half of your proficiency bonus equals the number of items that you can bond to, up to a maximum of 3. So they have 3 items they can bond to. Like the druid has like a stone that if she throws it and it hits the target and she succeeds a spellcasting check, she'll disintegrate whatever that target is. It's like they can knock out they can drop a boss fight with a single throw of that stone and it'll disintegrate it, but it destroys the bug. So if they use that against the bug is gone, and sure, but except some creatures are time savvy. They know that there's a time loop. So whenever the characters go through the loop and try a new tactic, Depending if the challenge is time savvy, they only have one chance to use any particular tactic against that creature ever. It'll have a countermeasure because it knows that they can throw a disintegration stone at it. So like the bug will like hold its action to spit acid at the stone as it comes in, so it can destroy the disintegration stone. The team can't use disintegration again to defeat that enemy. So like stuff like that. So it's a really rewarding experience. And once they figure out how to do it, we pretty much hand wave having to do that encounter again. Because it's like the point was being able to figure out how to defeat it. Now that you know how to defeat it, if you need to go back there again, it just becomes a simple skill challenge for them to be able to defeat it. And they know how to beat it. It's just a matter of do they hit the beats. Like we need 2 reflex saves and a fortitude saving throw. And if we can all hit our marks, then we can clear the scenario. If we don't, then we have to reset it. So they can burn days on a challenge by spending X amount of days, and at the end of those, just practicing it. And it's like, okay, great. We've done this like 20 times. We should be able to just do it, right? So that'll give them bonus inspiration dice to spontaneously spend over the course of the challenge. Like our ranger just screwed up his constitution saving throw. Well, great. Let's burn an inspiration die so that he can re-roll that. We gained that inspiration by resetting 20 times. So we have 20 dice that we can stack up between the team. Well, it's 18 because their max level is 18 right now. So amongst a lot of them, they can have a number of dice built up equal to their level to distribute between each other during the course of the challenge. And when you absolutely have to, when you have to hit a DC 25 on all of your rolls, and that means a die roll of 19 for the druid, because our druid has horrible dexterity, so they can cash in days to stack up dice, so they can do a bunch of rerolls. And they're all using different martial power stuff that we use. So they have they can spend mana to boost their ability checks or their saving throws or deal extra damage or cause an effect. So this is the scenario where I've been playtesting the martial power system at the fourth tier. We started using it at 12th level, and we've been using it up now into about to be 19th level. And so far, it's been absolutely awesome. So I want to get a playtest going at 5th to 7th level, just to get a good feel for the lower level, to make sure that it manifests often enough and that characters get enough advantage out of the pool system that it's satisfying to use until you can get up into those higher levels. Granted, most people never get to those higher levels, but that's why I like playtesting at the high end first, because if it curves out and it's fun at the high tier of play, then it's just a matter of reverse engineering it down to more sensible numbers at lower tiers, because you can always make something weaker, you can always make something stronger. But it's at the strong end where things break. You can always curve things down so they don't break during 5th level. But if you have something optimized at 5th level and then you logically curve it out to the higher levels, it could accidentally break. So playtesting at the high end and then working down to where most people actually play the game. That high end testing at 17th, 18th, 19th level, that's where you establish it's safe for the game at this level. It doesn't break the game at this level. So if a table actually gets there, there's confidence that no, this will work fine for you. No worries. You actually test it at the high end. Most people don't get to play the high end. A lot of designers don't design for the high end. Wizards is potentially included in that audience, or in that shame pile. But if you're going to build a game, you have to make sure the toys that you build work at all levels of the game, which is just a great excuse for you to set up a high-level campaign and run that for a while. Honestly, a really fluid designer of the 5e system should be confident running games at any level, so that when you're building stuff, you know it's going to work. if you shy away from 13th plus level adventures, how the hell are you going to know if your 8th level spell actually does what you expect it to do or what the exploits are, you know? Anyway, I'm obviously tired and rambling. But thanks for the point of conversation, Hornetica. Appreciate it. But if you're a designer, you absolutely have to have a table. You have to be DMing a table. You have to have opportunities to arise to use the stuff that you're designing for. Learn how to fold it into your game so that it becomes a fun component that DMs are going to want to use. In the description down below, there's a link to the Theurgy ability check casting system. I use that system for all the rituals, all the time travel rituals, all the rune prison rituals. There's a number of different types of rituals in this campaign that we use that are expressed using the Theurgy ability check casting. It's basically just a different type of skill challenge. But it's structured by level of spell, so it's something that can be used not only in this adventure but in any campaign where you want low level NPCs manipulating super high level magic with a high probability of something going wrong, thus triggering reason for your characters to get involved because some low level character tried to make a deal with a demon because they missed their daughter or some stupid shit like that. So they make a pact with a demon to get their daughter back, and oops, now everyone is zombies, because you screwed up your ritual. Then the players have to go and they have to fix it by figuring out what the ritual is, destroying the ritual, or fixing it and building it correctly. And, maybe the foolish mortal that unleashed the undead plague for his daughter's sake, maybe he gets turned into a wight or something, so now you have to fight him too. Stuff like that. But the tools are there, and we had to build a lot of scenarios where the tools would need to be used so that we can verify this Theurgy system thing works. It just happens that I had been using this spellcasting ritual system in my home games for a number of years. I just never officially codified it. So the Theurgy ability check book was an opportunity for me to lock in some homebrew that I've been using for quite some time in my own tables. It's like, well, you know what? There's value here. I think other people may find value in this, and it's a great way to introduce reasons for low-level characters to cause high-level trouble. Well, not characters, but like NPCs. I don't remember why we got here. The last I checked. Okay, so I kind of just woke up, and the last I remember, we were talking about ethnic diversity in character illustrations, and then I ended up in a tangent about time travel. I don't remember. Oh, that's right. It's because I won't be here on Tuesday like usual. I'm gonna be running my game on Tuesday for my lunch team. So that means that Martial Powers is getting shunted to Wednesday this week. So you can tune in with me at lunchtime this Wednesday to continue exploring this Martial Power system. We'll be fleshing out more, probably more fighter stuff. That's the connection, sir. I just kind of turn off my brain and start talking. I know that could potentially get me in trouble, but if we're okay with everything that's inside of our heart and our minds, then we can just let it talk. It's when we don't trust ourselves that we can't afford to let ourselves just freely speak. But yeah, thanks for the affirmation, Hornetico, that I get on a tear and maybe no one else knows how the hell I got there either. Like, what? Because I'll rabbit hole, and then I'll tangent down that rabbit hole, and then rabbit hole, and then tangent, and then rabbit hole, and now we're talking about, oh, I don't know, nuclear physics. I want to get this, even though when I drop the color underneath the line art, I'll usually what I do is I end up bonding or merging the line art with the color, and then working the two layers into each other so that they don't look so comic book like. But so that means that, like, a lot of times this meticulous amount of effort in the line art isn't important, but this is the fabric. The material that we're using here is silk, and silk has very crisp edges to it. So I want to try to respect the crisp edges that are in the garment, so that when I bond the color, when I put the color underneath it, and then I merge the two layers together, that the line art will help reinforce where those crisp folds are at, so that the material comes off different than, like, say, cotton. There we go. That feels pretty good. That time loop inspiration mechanic is actually the foundation for the heist mechanics that I've been thinking about. Ooh, text. It appears I made a grave error while trying to figure out what I didn't like about my style. How can you make a grave error in Discovery? You're going to have to flesh that out for me, Hornetico, because that doesn't compute with me. At worst, you're just going to ruin a few pieces. But the knowledge that you're going to gain from that mistake is going to build strength for your art style in general. Tell me, what is this grave error you speak of? Hand. That's a shit hand. And it's probably not actually big enough. Let's grab it. Yeah, way too small. We're going to delete that before anyone notices what a horrible hand that was. And we'll get back to that. I did a practice page and somehow just recreated the early 2010 studio trigger art style. Which is an error because I do like that style. It's very different from my normal one. Welcome to Magic, my man. Uh-oh, it's magic. Uh-oh, it's magic. Uh-oh, it's true. Gotta hold on you tonight. Hey, timely timer. How are we sitting on our time? 7:20? I don't think my microphone's next to my face anymore somehow. Also trying to figure out how jawlines work, and that's not going well. This is anatomy, my man. You're gonna have to spend yourself some quality time with an anatomical structure book. I personally took anatomy classes in college in biology, specifically so I could have a lot of time with images of muscle structure and bones and organs. Not because I needed biology at all for my travesty of a college career. I was mostly in college to get away from people in my hometown, and college allowed me a safe space, a dormitory, like enclosed student environment where I could romp, play, flirt, and keep myself relatively out of trouble during that exploration. And so I didn't really take my college career seriously, like, at all. And as a result of it, I accumulated quite a chunk of debt for basically a license to party for about 3 years. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just accumulating a lot of debt with absolutely no reason to proceed. So I quit. I quit university and went to culinary school. And within 2 semesters, landed a really, for the time, a really good gig, being a prep and pastry chef at a local Italian restaurant that I absolutely loved and adored. So it was a big victory for me to become, like, I love their cheesecake, I love their bread pudding, I love their Parmesan. They had some of the best eggplant Parmesan that I've ever had. And so this was my list of reasons for why I wanted to work there. I love your food so much. I want to learn how to make it with you, and I want to be your go-to guy. So I landed the interview. I had more credentials and cooking experience, and, well, not necessarily experience, but more disciplined training. Like, prep cook is all about following recipes and keeping a timeline so that you're done and out of the way by the time the line cooks need to come in and start actually producing dishes. So I was efficient, fast, and had the ability to read a recipe and build it correctly and know how to ask questions. I was educated. I was an educated cook, and that's exactly what they needed at the time. So it was really easy for me to land the gig. And so that was all I needed out of the. It turns out that chef school is full of a lot of ego. Go figure. I didn't realize it at the time, but yes, it's coded in egos. People that think that they have amazing palates that build amazing food, and for some reason they ought to be patting themselves on the back for that. But whatever. I have no palate at all. I am a horrible chef. I could never. I can't create dishes. I can execute plans, but I have a trucker's palate. I was a smoker. I've never had much of a flavor palate beyond heat and sweetness, so I'm worthless in designing plates. But I can. You show me a list of directions to follow, and I'll nail it for you. But that's all I needed to do at the time. That was a great gig. Freaking get up at 6, go in and take care of the inventory trucks. So I'm running around with 50-pound bags of potatoes on my back. As a 20-year-old, that's fantastic. I'm just building leg strength, running up and down stairs. And my day would be done by 2. So I would be able to get up, knock out my day. I'm 22 years old. My day's over at 2 o'clock. My whole day and night is now open for me to mess around and do whatever I want. It was amazing. I could easily go to bed at 1 o'clock and be up in 4 or 5 hours to do it again because I was 20. Amazing times. But the anatomy classes I took, because I just took electives of whatever I thought would be interesting. At the time, I wanted to get better at anatomy. My mother was actually working at a chiropractic college of medicine or whatever that is. Anyway. So there were students that messed around with, like manipulating the human body. So they had this cadaver room where they would have bodies donated to them so they could do studies. So they would let me hang out in the cadaver room, and I could study muscle layers and like use a forceps like to peel apart the muscles and look at how they connect to the bone and stuff. And that was super fun to do. That's what introduced me to chiropractic, because they'd let me hang around, and they'd have students that needed volunteers to work on. So it was free chiropractic as long as I was willing to allow a student to work on me. It was always final year students before they actually let them manipulate human bodies, like living people like me. But it was worth it. That got me into chiropractic, and I'd already gotten my body beat up pretty badly by that point by falling off cliffs and stuff like that. So I definitely needed chiropractic care. It was just the universe taking care of me by my mom ended up working in the admin office there and putting us on the roster of volunteers. So I'd show up every other week after class and sit down and let a third year student crack my neck. I'm gonna pull this back a little bit here. Bodis. You can see here she's got this chest plating that goes up like that. So I need to build accordingly here. Hey Nitro, how you doing, my guy? Still a little rough through here. So I listen to copyright music, etc. When I'm not streaming, so that I don't get copyright strikes, right? So I can listen to whatever I want to listen to when I'm not on stream here with you guys. And honestly, one of the things I've been listening to this past week, I stumbled into it on Friday, and then I let it play in the background, like this block here that you have of like the text here. My chat block and my own picture here. When I'm not streaming, this space has YouTube pieces of YouTube in it, and it's basically all I can see because how things are built up. So it's not very distracting, but I can see stuff going on in the corner here. And so what I discovered on Friday and have been listening to over the weekend while I was working was DMsGuild. Discovering Vampire Survivor, the video game, is a year old. It's a playlist of like maybe 10 episodes that are like 3 hours a piece. So about 30 hours worth of game content of him discovering this game, and then playing it through. And by God, I don't play video games because I don't have time for it, but I love listening like this, the Let's Plays. And listen to professional gamers do things good, so that it's actually entertaining to listen to. And by God, it is some of the most entertaining content that I've listened to. I would say it is as comparable to it is as entertaining as what was previously my all-time favorite, which was fuck, I can't remember his name. He played Terraria, and it was just absolutely just God, what the fuck was that guy's name? He did Last of Us and Terraria, and God, I can't remember his name. It's been years now. But Terraria has like all these little bunny rabbits. If you've played Terraria, it's a side-scrolling Minecraft sort of game, and it has all sorts of like monsters, but also normal creatures that spawn throughout the world. And you dig down. If you dig deep enough, you find yourself in hell, and there's demons down there for you to fight. But otherwise, you're like digging up ore and building weapons and stuff so that you can deal with different challenges that come along the way. But there's all these bunny rabbits that keeps spawning in the forest and fields on the top side of the surface. And so I can't remember his name for the fucking life of me, but he'd dig a hole straight to hell, and then he watched all these bunny rabbits just fall, just free fall down in hell. And he's like, "No, butter, no!" He would scream at his screen. It was so fucking funny. But DMsGuild on this vampire survivor game is like he would ask chat what to do, and things would go wrong, and he would completely just yell at chat and blame them for getting him killed. It's so funny. It's just him walking around destroying stuff with passive weapon systems. I mean, if you know what Vampire Survivor is, then it only takes, it's basically you choose a character, and as you gain levels, you gain new weapons to deal DPS to creatures around you, and so it's Survivor because the enemies keep ramping up in damage, and you have to outpace the damage that the creatures deal. You have to outpace their damage so that you can kill them before they kill you. Hence Survivor. But if he makes a mistake, then you get killed really quickly. God, I wish I could remember the name of that guy that he ended up canceling himself out for one reason or another. When it comes to video games, I usually only play party games with friends. I rarely play on my own time. Yeah, fair enough. I'm far too busy to actually play video games, but I love having them running around in the background, especially if they're fun commentary or like really get into their community while they do it, because it allows me to acquire that social knowledge. That's part of like TTRPGs and video games just kind of go hand in hand. So for me to really keep an eye on the zeitgeist of what's going on with gaming, I really need to also stay plugged into what's going on with video games to know where like new designers are taking cues from. It's really difficult to take cues from video games when you're building a tabletop RPG because it's not the same. And I think a lot of young designers, or young as in new designers that are steeped in video game culture, don't understand like super fiddly mechanical systems are difficult to express at a table. If your system is overly fiddly, it's going to be difficult for people to actually interact with that system during a role-playing game and have a smooth running game so where it comes off as fun, not just frustrating. Which is something that I have to constantly keep in mind when I'm developing the martial power system. This is a cool mechanic. Statistically, this thing might work, but as far as a game is concerned, it's a massive pain in the ass. Like, what's an example? When I hit you with an attack, you get a mark on you. And that mark does D4 damage per round as a poisoning effect. And anytime that creature is adjacent to another creature, it has a 25% chance of infecting them as well. That's just a shitload of dice and determination that a DM is going to have to make. It is, as Taryn Indestructible calls it, juggling chainsaws. Where you're forcing the DM to process more information that is critically important that you don't drop because it's part of what the game mechanics are. And if it requires a lot of attention, then it's not smooth and intuitive to use. The more you have to think about it, the less it's just part of I do this thing, and you keep your game moving forward and it feels exciting. I like how she's looking. This is looking pretty good. But a lot of video games have a shitload of RNG mechanics that are just auto resolved by the computer just processing, what's next. It just automatically does. Like Pathfinder, for instance, you hear a lot of people say, if I wasn't using tabletop RPG, like if I wasn't using Roll20 or Foundry, there's no way I'd want to play Pathfinder 2nd Edition because the amount of variables that are involved with optimizing character actions is more than they want to deal with in their own head during the course of play. It becomes a burden, not fun. You don't want to have a TTRPG that's supposed to be throwing dice, getting players to the point that they're frustrated if they don't have a computer running those dice for them. I have few criticisms about Pathfinder 2, but I don't play it because of the amount. It's just too featly for me. It's too same, just like 4E feels too same. That's my own personal aesthetic. But that's a good case in point that, like, if you're thinking about a video game and you're imagining cool video game effects, that's cool and all, but you have to make it so that it's super easy for the DM to use it for you to ever show up at your table. Otherwise, it's just another thing that's going to sit on your shelf eating space. We got another 10 minutes here before my day is over. So I'm going to drop my 20-minute timer down to 10 minutes. Take a sip. Must buy TTRPG. I'll get after that. More than anything, I just want to get rid of the jaggedness. You can tell when I get fatigued because the amount of jaggedy lines I end up having to redo again start showing up more and more. It sets kind of a cap on how much work I can do at any given time. And the precision of my arcs start to fit. Yeah, I'm already getting fatigued. But the Hazards chapter is done. I finished that over the weekend. And we finished up the Illithid beach illustration for the movement section. And the pilot's coming along nicely. So I'll have these last 3 illustrations for the equipment section done this week. And then we'll be officially moving into the... so the only things we'll have left is combat, exploration, and finishing up the system random generator section. So just those 3 sections. And then, of course, we also have the Lies of Araxis section. But that's going to be mostly maps. There's maps, diagrams, and tokens. There's very little actual illustration that I need to do in the Lies of Araxis section at all. It's all... maps, diagrams, and tokens. So, which is why I'm happy to spend so much time at the front end here doing illustration like this, because the last 20 pages, all the visual assets are going to just be technical for the adventure. So we're actually coming along really, really nicely. I'm very pleased. I think it's possible a release in September could be done. I was hoping for August, but I think that's just going to be too much, considering how much needs to be done. I just don't think it's realistic, but I feel like September feels good. If we can have this thing done by September, that means I can start playtesting stuff probably late October, November. And then that'll move. As soon as this is done, the Ebron content becomes my Monday through Friday morning task. And that opens up my evenings, my Monday and Thursday night to do something different, which might end up being playtesting for the next 6 months. Just going to stick figure that hand. That length is correct down to elbow joint here. I'm gonna leave that rest off for now, and we'll figure out what kind of a gesture I want to have. There we go. Much more delicate. Very good. There we go. Solution to developing jaggedy lines is just to always have jaggedy lines. A lot of it I can just smooth out when I blend the color and the line arts together. That's when a lot of the smoothing happens. But the more I have to do it during that post merge section, the longer it takes for me to colorize things. So it becomes an issue of, do I want to be meticulous now in the line art stage so I can have a smooth an easier time once the color and the line art gets merged together, or do I want to leave it loose and allow the that merged portion to take longer because I have to now resolve sloppy line art, you know? I appreciate the joke though. And you do not have choppy lines. Your stuff reminds me of vector art, honestly. How we doing? I can do like this this flaring of her skirt hem because she is free floating in space. Hence the need for the necklace in the first place, so that she can breathe while she's just drifting through space. And if during the Lazaraxis adventure, if your team blows a hole in the side of the vampire ship that's holding her, then she may forcibly be ejected out of the ship and free float through space. So this is all narratively reinforcing. Also just be because I tend to use a just really small resolution in canvas, so everything looks at a certain point. Probably feel like it's chunky because I'm looking at it so close up, so it feels fuzzy pixels on it. Yeah, I respect that. That's why I find I need to pan back a bit and like take assessment of like how close are people going to actually be looking at the text on here. You can zoom in as much as you want to an absurd degree. Adobe Reader allows you to do that with PDF files, But realistically, like, this is probably as close as text needs to be for anybody to be absorbing the information properly. Like, if I do a full screen here, like, this is more than sufficient probably for most people on this size, which means that I don't need a higher, like, if it looks good at this amount of, what zoom are we at? Yeah, we're about 50%. As long as it looks good at 300 DPI, 50% resolution, that's plenty good. More realistically, we're probably going to be, what, here, like around 29, 30 some odd percent resolution, or a zoom, to be able to properly read this text. If I can read this text at this level, that probably means that you're more than comfortable with better eyes than mine at this level. So know what level of resolution you actually need so that you don't kill yourself on detail that becomes insignificant. You probably already know that, but I'm just speaking out to the audience that doesn't know yet. So this is great. I'm happy with this. All I gotta do is resolve the arm here, which is here. So all I gotta do is resolve this arm here and have her toggling the necklace to create the air bubble. Then we'll be good to go with colors. So there's our air bubble placement. I'm going to hold I'll probably finish the line art tonight, just because there's very little cleanup left to go. I think I want to have this sit on her pauldrons here like a curve. Let's make sure her skull sits inside of that space. That's a pretty good space. Cool. So that's how we'll do. I'll finish up the line art tonight. We'll be back in about 11 hours to do some cartography. Actually, we're gonna do character tokens for the Eberron adventure tonight. We should finish up the line art for the family, and then start doing color work for all 6 of the characters that we have built. And then once those are finished, which will probably be this time next week, I reckon, we'll get back into finishing up the remaining cartography pieces, like the farmhouse. We'll bloody up the village. We'll make the sinkhole map, the possessed tree, the dilapidated gazebo, flagstone pathways. We've got about 4 or 5 different little vignettes that we need to build, like 20 by 20 or smaller size. We'll get those finished here in August. So when the Spelljammer's off our plate, and we'll then drop into just doing creature item and gear tokens for Eberron in the mornings once this is done. So we're gonna have a transition. We're gonna have a change in tempo and focus. Once I have Martial Powers off to edits as well, which I anticipate at the end of the year. That'll free up my plate to do more Spelljammer stuff, like build the Armada, the Mammoth, the Elder Brain ships, lean into doing mecha combat. We can start playing around with mass combat system, which I might be publishing on DTRPG as an independent project, and then come back around and redo vehicle mechanics in a different way to fold into the mass combat system that we're building, instead of having it be a Spelljammer standalone. There's a lot of stuff in Spelljammer that isn't needed in general for other games, like the way that like gravity works and stuff like that is weird with Spelljammer. So this is, I guess, what we could say is a first take to me building a universal vehicle system, but there's a lot more we could do. Using these mechanics as a foundation that we can then take out of the DMsGuild playbox and build into other systems, into an independent thing that we can build as our own. So anyway, that's it for now. I'm going to bounce out of here. I hope you all have a great day. I will hopefully catch some folks in 11 hours for the Eberron work that we'll be doing and just talking about more stuff. And then Martial Powers will be on Wednesday this week instead of Tuesday. So if you show up for lunch streams on a weekly basis, great. We'll be back doing more Bob Ross landscape stuff on Saturday, working on bushes and flowers. So if you want to catch all this stuff, you can follow me on Twitter at Phil Kearney, or even better, hit the bell, like, subscribe, and thanks a lot for being involved. See you guys on the other side.